System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' in the city left.
Yes, today is Friday, May 2nd. I am Amin TMK alongside Emoja Lil Tanky Sumler. Happy Friday, Emoja. How are you doing today? My friend, a day after May Day.
But May Day is a way of life, my good sir.
There it is.
Work
Sorry,
is
how are you doing?
Motherfucking world, you motherfucking night. I should stop cussing, but I'm not going to. Sorry.
Yeah. I already barked up that tree many years ago, and it's fine. I don't think it matters anymore.
Why?
Whatever.
You know, I'm
the
sorry. I'm a
algorithms, they don't
disappointment.
care.
You know, to the bourgeois black class that loves Jesus and liberals. Why?
We say
I like that Tanky, but he curses so goddamn much.
They want, it's like when we talk about our music and like what our type of our style of rap is, and it's like we don't do nonprofit rap. If like that's what you're into,
thought shit. I mean, what you want to hear? Probably
I don't
not
know.
that.
I'm a full human being. I try to be, at least, because I don't want leaders that. Anyway, I don't want to get too focused on us. But yes, happy Friday, happy May Day, belated. But like you said, it's a lifestyle. No May Day here in America, though. Unfortunately, I don't know what's up with that.
Barely one in France. Cops showed up whooping niggas' asses. Stop celebrating the fall of Nazis, you little bitch.
Right. And did you know that I forget, America, like they announced May 1st as like Love Your Country Day or something like that. I gotta dive back into it. We'll get the crack team on it.
I love my country,
research.
man. What about that?
No.
Man, I love me some Americans. Little fucked up fuckers, man.
Wow. All right. Let's talk about news. Do you want to talk about news today?
Let's do it.
We could. This is something we've been wanting to talk about. You sort of, I don't want to say you promised it, but you said we might talk about it. So let's get into it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about conflict happening in Kashmir right now. I'm going to give it to you pretty quickly, but people in Kashmir have been saying, this is on the Middle East Eye, locals refer to punitive demolitions as an Israeli tactic, which is frequently employed against Palestinians. So, obviously, can you talk just a little bit about maybe some historical context surrounding this area of India and sort of what's happening now, to the best of your knowledge, and then maybe we can get more into the nitty gritty.
So, I want to start off by saying something that is common knowledge, but not maybe every American thinks about this, or maybe you personally don't know it. So I'm going to do a list of countries. The United States of America, Russia, Britain, France, China, okay, and that's 5. Let me do the list again. America, the United States, Britain, Russia, China, France. Yeah, so the same 5, right? Pakistan, India, okay? What do these countries have in common? These are, North Korea. There we go. There we are. That's the one I was missing.
Probably Israel.
These are the countries with declared nuclear weapons. Declared. Presumed Israel. Almost all but guaranteed Israel. But they haven't never officially declared it. That is to say, made a government position like this is our nuclear posture, blah. They just be hinting, and, countries like, that whole thing.
They did say it. I just want to say they did say that they were going to, though, that one person in the Knesset that was like, oh, we should nuke Gaza.
Right. Members of the government acknowledging that there are nuclear weapons technically is not the same thing as a country having a declared nuclear status.
I understand.
Stupid, what's the word for it? It's just nomenclature. Semantics. Yeah. It's really all it is, right? So there's that. So one thing that you might have missed in that list is Pakistan and India, right? These are 2 nuclear powers. Nuclear weapons, not like nuclear energy. That's a different list, okay? And that list, Iran is, a nuclear energy state. And look at all of the hell that we're going through right now, right? With the government of the United States saying, give up your missile technology, give up your right to enrich, which is guaranteed by the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and all that shit. The thing to remember is India left the NPT. It was like, fuck this shit. And then they developed nuclear missiles, right? Nuclear weapons, nuclear missiles, right? Because of different things. Pakistan shortly did the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And so when we talk about what that conflict looks like, this will be the first time we have a non-proxy war between two nuclear powers. Now, on this show, we've long discussed the fact that India is a bit of a unstable partner as it relates to the whole BRICS dynamic, right? Those of you guys that don't remember, BRICS is a economic, financial kind of network of countries. It stands for Brazil. The initial members were Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, right? Since then, we've got other countries that have come along, and it's actually quite a list now. There's like 30 countries that have applied to be part of BRICS, and it exists to be part of a framework that allows you to do business without necessarily having to do business with Western businesses or Western business practices, right? So it in a way has become a way to provide sanctions relief for very powerful nations that, aren't necessarily succeeding on the Bretton Woods kind of platform or have been ostracized or sanctioned. Like, Russia is consistently sanctioned by the European powers in America. China is always in some level of sanction, right? In many ways, the tariff is just a fancier version of the sanction that's named in another way. And so what BRICS offered was an alternative to the Western system that allowed these countries to continue to go on. For a long time on this show, we've hypothesized that India was the weakest link because they've always wanted to have a foot in the West. They want to have a foot in the East. They don't want to have definitive partnerships that say, I'm with these guys. They're nominally anti-Chinese, nominally pro-America, right? But not to the point whereas they didn't join BRICS, didn't see the value. They realized for a long time the only country that's been willing to sell them advanced military technology outside from their homegrown industries has been Russia, right? So it made sense for a long time for India to kind of play along and be part of this. When we're talking about what they look like as a weak link, all of that is under threat now. Pakistan isn't a full BRICS member, but they've definitely applied for membership. They're on that path. And they definitely do a ton of business with the Chinese as far as the Belt and Road Initiative and the String of Pearls Initiative, which is the land routes where their mega industry goes through, to provide pipelines of goods all across the world. Sea of Strings is the oceanic version of this, right? And the biggest way to threaten all of that is war, And so here we are now. Right. So how do we get to this actual conflict? From a historical point of view, that land has always, at least for the past 1,000 years, has been very tumultuous. There's lots of different ethnic groups there. We say India, but not everybody comes from what you would consider like an Indian ethnicity in the traditional sense. Like when you say Chinese, you think Han Chinese. There's lots of different ethnicities in India. And although the overwhelming largest majority of the ethnic population are Hindu, a very significant portion of them are Muslim. Okay. And when they were conquered by the British hundreds of years ago, those differences were highlighted. That is the Western strategy of divide and conquer. So the Indians that were Muslim hated the Indians that were Hindu. And there were always ways to keep this conflict going, right? Like a good portion of the Indian population does not eat beef. Beef is seen as a sacred animal. And then the other section don't eat pork, right? So there would be wars where the British would have these bullets back in the 19th century where they were all encased. And the quickest way to get them out of the encase would be to bite through the casing, right? But the thing is, bullets degrade over time, and so you want to. They normally kept them stored in some type of fat, right? And half the time the fat was lard, half the time the fat was beef fat, right? So it was always causing tension with the people. You know, you've been impressed into the military by the British to fight wars that you don't even want to fight, and now you have to defile your mouth by either putting pork in your mouth or beef in your mouth, which is problematic either way it goes for a significant portion of the population. And these kind of things created tension for a long time. When India got its independence, it split, and Pakistan was created on one side, Sri Lanka was created on the other side. Bangladesh, right? But all of that at one time was India, right? Bangladesh, largely Muslim. Pakistan, almost exclusively Muslim. You know what I'm saying? It's the second largest Muslim nation in the world, right? Second to Indonesia, right? We're talking about hundreds of millions of Muslims. And there is this area in the middle called Pakistan. I'm sorry, called Kashmir, right? Which you may know, Kashmir, the fabric, all that. It comes from there. And half of Kashmir is maintained by the Pakistani people, and the other half is maintained by the Indian nation, right? But they don't want to be Indian, you know. There's a good section of the Kashmiris that want to be Pakistani. The other half really kind of want to be their own region, their own nation. Well, here's where the problem becomes. Because of these separatist movements, which have been militarized by a lot of three-letter organizations in the United States, which was admitted recently, right, by the Pakistani defense minister, right? He's like, no one really cared when these guys were out doing the bidding of the Langley and all of that, you know, destabilizing Afghanistan, destabilizing Iran. You know, some of you guys may remember it was about a year ago, Iran launched a missile attack into Pakistan, and Pakistan fired back and blah, 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 because of these rebels from the area that were committing terrorist acts. Well, these rebels have committed some acts in India that have been largely described as terrorism. And, you know, of course, right now you have this alien other, these evil Muslims, right? And so Modi, being the super Hindu guy that he is, wants to look tough, and he's threatening military retaliation. And that's where we are right
now. You know, it's kind of like the struggle that we see in a lot of places. Of course, I'm not trying to flatten it. But there are, just like you said, when you have a country with a lot of different ethnic groups, this is something that happens. And it's difficult. Again, I appreciate so much the context, you know, but like you said, I mean, these are old conflicts. These are ethnic groups that go before these countries were even named these things. You know, I mean, Pakistan and Bangladesh, I mean, these are newer, you know, countries in terms of, you know, like how they exist today. And like you said, the foreign minister was on that news program, basically like, you know, saying, yeah, no one seemed to be mad when we were doing the bidding of the West. And now it seems like, you know, it seems like, you know, again, Modi is like the South Asian Erdogan, where you just don't know which way they're going to, you know, he's going to move. And obviously being sort of this Indian nationalist and fascist that he is. And again, I'm not trying to get involved in the independent politics of India because I'm not an expert on that. But I think we can say that those are the things, you know, that
he wants an India for Hindus. I mean, that shouldn't be a controversial
nationalism.
statement.
It's not a controversial statement. So obviously his connection to the West is very important, too, in that regard. And, you know, he's kind of playing this. It's, you know, I mean, obviously India is the most populous country in the world, so they have a tremendous amount of value just in that. But obviously they need the infrastructure, they need energy, they need, you know, and you know, military equipment and things like that. So you're in BRICS. You are, I don't know if this is a big deal or not, but Modi, just who we were talking about, has declined or said he can't make the May Day celebration. I believe this is May 9th in Russia. We talked about it in the last episode. Yeah, go ahead.
Which up until, like we said, about a week ago, he was a lock for, right? And this is where we talk about like things that tug at the strings, right, of the BRICS alliance, right? I hesitate to use that word because Americans think about alliance as military,
yeah,
right? Whereas it's more of a consortium of nations is the way to think about BRICS. But a week ago, he was definitely in, right? Now you couple this with the veiled threats that have been made for almost a week straight by Zelensky about, I can't really guarantee it's going to be no safety in Moscow, not while the war going on. You know what I'm saying? Like just the audacity of that, remembering again, the ability of the Russians at any moment to not even use nuclear weapons, to use just the Oreshnik platform and to really destroy any city in Ukraine they want. Like at any moment, this could happen. And they have just chosen to have incredible restraint, even in the face of Ukrainians running ops and bragging about it. They recently blew up a Russian general in a suburb outside of Moscow, right? And so this was going to be a great show of solidarity for the BRICS nations. In fact, you had Robert Fico coming. You had what's his name, Viktor Orban coming from the EU nations. But again, almost all of the BRICS nations, and now all of a sudden Lula can't be there, right? Right as America seems to side with Ukraine again. I say it seems to side, but remember always it was a straight up proxy war between the Russians and the Americans, right? So now that the Americans are no longer playing that game and they're allowing, Zelensky to be a little bit more off the leash, right? And threaten these things all of a sudden because of the conflict that is the potential conflict that is brewing between India and Pakistan. Well, Modi has to stay in India with his troops, right? Without looking at how easy it is to even have this be a double game from the beginning. Because the game has been given away by the Pakistani Minister of Defense. These forces have been often used in clandestine ways by the West for their own means. So it's not hard to imagine, these guys were given an order to go, went off into India, did some wild shit. Now India's in this place where, Modi has to prove that he's tough and he's going to protect you from the Muslim menace. Never forget, India is the BRICS country that does the most business with Israel, right? So, these are the little things that they've always done to show that they really don't have solidarity. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, talking about just the way that they're, implementing tactics or whatever. And again, their connection to the West, their connection to the British Empire, there's all of those tactics and those false flags. And we talked about this with the boys, the bad faith actors that are out there, the ops that are just, they throw a Molotov cocktail, you throw a punch in a very heated situation. Something can happen.
Matter people did
breaking in and doing all these other things. So those same tactics are used. But like we said, I mean, again, these are just difficult. These are difficult, issues to talk about because they go back to something that's more of the ethnic differences that you see kind of flare up all the time. But I think, like you said, I was reading an article about the Modi statement, and all the scuttlebutt going around it, and he basically said, well, we're going to send somebody, also a high official there, like you said, we can't go because of this thing with Kashmir, which could have totally been an op from the jump, and the scuttlebutt from the Russian officials is this person has said it was a very highly likely chance that they were going to be here for 2 months, and this pullback, I just kind of feel like. Again, I don't know. Remember when Donnie J, I don't want to say it's Donnie J that did it, but I mean, the West would certainly like to see BRICS, having some internal conflicts.
Unalign them. We might have to disunite them. Why the fuck did he talk like that? Well,
you don't understand. BRICS is going to be over when I can't get involved. Anyway, I'm not going to get too much into
Right. And
into the
this is straight out of
Trump
the
stuff.
Western
Yeah.
playbook, right? I mean, you can look at no further than the actions in Syria, where all the liberals are like, we gotta get rid of Assad. Now you got the head chopper in chief in there giving up his ports to all of the European countries and talking about normalization with Israel. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
He's been named the president. Why don't you show some respect? He said, I'm the president. And then that's how it happened. All right.
right. I wonder who named him the president.
Yeah. Well, that's how presidents work. You get named.
Well,
Get a little plaque.
than not.
Get a little golden name tag on your door.
Democracy at work, Jack.
That's how we do it. Yeah. So again, I think obviously right now India's putting the I in team. You know what I mean? Just doing what they want to do. The I in BRICS as well. And you know, we're just gonna have to see how it plays out. But I do want to say, I think it was again. I think China and Russia they're again meeting up today, and they're having meetings. Or there was going to be I think Xi Jinping was also saying that he's going to stay a little longer after May Day so they can discuss some things. So again, that relationship is still deepening, and you hope to see you know, the rest of the BRICS nations can kind of come together, but I guess they're just up in the air about what's going to happen. That's why we study this every day. Yeah.
Geopolitically speaking, we don't deal with wants. We don't deal with feelings. We deal with
Feelings, yeah.
ability to project force. And India has a much greater capacity for violence. They have escalatory dominance, as Obama would say. And the fact of the matter is, the fighters came from Pakistan. You know, you don't have to be on India's side to see why India is reacting in this way. The reality is, Pakistan has a couple of options. Give up the people that did it. You know what I'm saying? Allow the Indians access to this area to do their own investigations, or work side by side with them, or, you know, wash your hands of the Kashmir region. Like, this is something that countries got to get better at, man. Like, clearly these people don't necessarily want to be part of the Pakistani framework either. So let them go. And then what India does to Kashmir don't got shit to do with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the moves. You can't go to war. Like, all you can, you know, and this is what smart nations do, right? Like, this is what Ukraine should have done. You should have realized all that bluster and bluffing, all that shit. Once it's said and done, you have no path to victory. And if it goes to full-fledged war, other than preemptive nuclear strike, which, again, we've said this on the show a number of times. There are no small nukes. There's no limited nuclear war. Okay? The first country that pops nuclear war, everybody's going to just go ahead and get right there. Everybody. You know, don't worry about the first nuclear strike. Worry about the second one. Because the first one will be whatever in the fuck country, but the second one will probably be Israel. You know, well, since we're using, you know, and from there, it's like, well, why not? You know, and you just don't know where it goes from there. So, like, even their quote unquote path to victory doesn't exist, right? In this situation, the move is make peace. And that's what it's on Pakistan to do, for the importance of the BRICS, for the importance of their own continued self-preservation.
And this is why China has things called semi-autonomous regions. This is something that Don Boss could have used. Luhansk and these territories, Kashmir, you know, and, you know, we talk about this too with the Kurds. You know, these are not easily fixable situations. And they're going to continue to be a part of these narratives and these conflicts unless we can, like you said, resolve them in a manner that makes sense for the people. I want to give a shout out to our podcast listeners. We're available everywhere you find podcasts: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, comment on the channel. We're growing. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We can only do that with y'all. Our Patreon is at the bottom in the description. We're going to give a huge shout out to all our patron members. And, you know, I love you guys. And I know I'm not saying your names anymore on air, but your names are in my heart as well. And, of course, we always have the list of the names at the end. And it was a great episode. And happy Friday to you, Tanky. And thank you, man. I love you, man. You're a great guy. And you're a great geopolitical analyst. Your locks are looking lovely. And yeah, what do we miss? Anything I forgot to ask?
I mean, again, just as it relates to all of these things, you know, it's just very important to see who declares for who, right? because that will tell you whether or not it's going to be a real war, right? Right now, Russia's doing a lot with the Indians to try to calm down the situation. The Chinese are doing a lot with the Pakistanis to try to calm down the relations, but it can't be, the moment that people start choosing sides is the end of BRICS, and so what we need to continue to see is just de-escalation all around. Because India's probably not going to de-escalate. In their opinion, they're the slighted, aggrieved party. Terrorism happened to us from people from technically your country. There seems to be a history of that with this group of people. And you have to be able to prove that you can control these people, or we're going to control them ourselves. And that's not hard to understand.
Yeah. Do your deep dives, everyone. There's so much to know and so much to learn and so much context to understand, so don't let yourself get too involved in, whatever mainstream propaganda. Always just do your research, and it's fun and it's easy and it's going to make you feel better. But when you have conversations with your friends, boom, for Emoji Little oh, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I just want to say at the end, this has been a developing progress. This thing has been progressing for like a couple of weeks, and we definitely want to spin to this. But I mean, even for us, it takes time to do research. It takes time to get into the history of these things, to understand, you know what I'm saying? So like, we're not out there trying to give you headline breaking news. That we do not have nearly a big enough team for that. We are just some leftists to be doing our fucking best, man. So if there's anything we missed, we invite you guys, leave it in the comments. You know what I'm saying? Also, any topics that you want us to cover, leave them in the comments. And, we will do our best and we'll get to them.
We're here to serve the people, and that's just what it is. For Emoji Little Tinky Summer, I'm Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.